Howdy folks, welcome back to SnowRunner. I'm going to review customizations on a new mod. It's Max Mike did his work to the Voron Grad. WH is for Workhorse M181. All of Max Mike's mods that I have are all M181. The other two being the Kodiak and the Chevy pickup. So it'll be interesting to see what he's done with the Voron Grad. I expect it to have at least as good an engine as the stock one. This looks like it goes one more with the, I believe that's the engine from the Azov. Well, it says Azov. That's S plus A and C. I think that's the biggest engine you can get in the Voron Grad without any customization. And this is S plus A minus B minus. S A minus B plus. So this does give a tiny nod to more power and only slightly less fuel economy. It has the crawler box, heavy duty, which is a mod. You have active stock, raised or tuned custom suspension. Raised isn't quite as high as tuned custom. Whole range of wheels. 52-inch duals with chains. 52-inch singles with chains. 52-inch Tega tires, or your standard fare of 52-inch mud tires. Whoops. Let's try the singles all chains. Oh, what I'm not seeing with the wheels is the Quasi wheels. You don't have the Ice Monster or the Mud Monster tires. You do have the use of the autonomous heavy-duty winch. It combines extended twin motor and autonomous. Have various spare wheels. Looks like this one probably carries it somewhere else. That's behind the cab. You have a recovery kit, and then you have that spare wheel. This one I don't see where it carries it. It must be up here under the frame rail on the right side. Since the fuel tank's on the left side. Yeah, there it is. In this view you can see it up there. Tall back pipe, short round cap, wedge cap, or just an intake air filter. I think I like the looks of the wedge cap. And then frame add-ons. All sorts of heavy stuff, or all sorts of stuff I see. A heavy crane, a loading crane, a heavy crane. The Caterpillar fuel carrier. Short flatbed. Mid-mounted short flatbed. I assume with that one, with the mid-mounted short flatbed, I would assume you can run the flatbed and the LC38 loading crane. Yes, you have that combination. Even with the long flatbed, it'll let you keep the loading crane and put a long flatbed on it. I suppose that takes away, it'd be just hit or miss if that takes away the ability to pull a dolly trailer. Looks like it's still fairly close to the rear, but anything that hangs past that pintle hook can eliminate the use of it. Van body add-on, which admittedly looks kind of oddly positioned on this truck because the wheel opening doesn't line up. Maintenance frame add-on looks pretty normal. Maintainer frame add-on, you can tell was built for a shorter frame rail truck. Just looks, again, kind of out of place on this one. Seismic vibrator looks like it fits this truck real well. Have small sideboard bed. Normal sideboard bed. Again, that probably takes away the use of the pintle hook, but I can't state that for sure. Let's put that on it and then take away the loading crane. See, now there you have the pintle hook back. And it looks like it actually doesn't overlap the pintle hook very far. So I bet you retain the use of that even with the loading crane. It only overlaps by 6 inches. You can still kind of see it under there. I bet you do retain the use of it. Big fuel tank, small fuel tank. Looks out of place on this vehicle. Okay, small fuel carrier spaced further back to allow for a crane, or a small fuel carrier right up against the back of the cab, which looks even more goofy. I wouldn't be surprised though if you could do a small fuel carrier in combination with the towing boom I was thinking you could put the LC38 behind the fuel carrier. Put the LC38 boom behind the fuel carrier and still have a high saddle, low saddle option. But that's obviously not. Saddle high, still no small fuel carrier. Saddle low, you could do the small fuel carrier with a saddle low. That's an option. Or you do have this towing boom as an option with the small fuel carrier. Now it makes me wonder if you could do the other small fuel carrier. Yeah, you could do that small fuel carrier and possibly maintain the loading crane. Takes away the rear loading crane if you try to put the front one on it. But what about towing boom? Well, that's just that crane. Let's leave that on it. Leave that fuel carrier on it and go back to the spare tire options. Spare wheel options. I could imagine you could run that one, and so you've got two spare wheels. You've got one there and one there. What about the recovery kit? Now the recovery kit kicks off the small fuel carrier. But what about the other spare wheel? Now you could have 3 spare wheels on it with the small fuel carrier and the rear boom. There you go. Spare wheel behind the cab, spare wheel under the frame rail, and a spare wheel on the ass end with the small fuel carrier and a towing boom. And you could still pull a dolly trailer with the pintle hitch. Or you can go with the more conventional LC38 up front, which is going to eliminate this spare wheel and run that in combination with a flatbed. I would imagine you could run this flatbed. Yes, You can run this mid-mounted flatbed, retain the spare wheel on the back of the cab, and still have the towing boom on the rear of the frame rails. You're just swapping the small fuel carrier's position for the mid-mounted flatbed. Alright, I think we ran through the add-ons enough. Beacon and fog lights. Now the roof rack gives you some supplies. Flasher bar, of course, takes that off. The double raised beacon takes that off. Factory fender, up to you if you want to try and run that. Beacon and fog lights or just roof fog lights. If you had on just the roof fog lights, then you could run the flasher bar or the double raised beacons in combination with that. Like I say, you put on the roof fog, you put on the roof rack. That takes away the beacons, but you still have some fog lights, and you have 150 repair parts and 80 spare fuel. So you have to weigh out for yourself, do you want the beacons or not? Hinged heavy duty pipe. That looks nice on the vehicle. Slanted pipe welded also looks nice. Hinged heavy duty pipe again. Or stock. Excuse me, stock actually kind of looks nice. I can put the heavy duty pipe on it without even spending anything. Cabin protector takes away the spare wheel. Small parking lights. Twin horn, must put it down on the fender or something. Chrome cap with beacons. Do that one. Yeah, there's the horns down there on the side of the hood. Wedge cap for the square edge on the top, I guess. Muzzle, heat shielded, a different heat shielded that actually allows you to have the spare wheel back. This heat shielded takes away the spare wheel, so does the muzzle, so does the wedge cap. That heat shielded gives you the spare tire back. And the slim muzzle, now you can have the slim muzzle with the spare wheel. So if you want to retain the spare wheel on the back of the cab, your options are muzzle or heat shielded. I would imagine if you're going to go with the LC38 crane and one of the other box sides or flatbeds, which in itself takes away the spare wheel, then it probably doesn't matter which exhaust you put on it. We could experiment with that quickly. But for now I'm going to do the small muzzle. Go with Oh, excuse me. It's after midnight. Getting tired. Go with those wheels. Visuals. Run through the multiple color options rather than the plain options. See if there's something floats my boat. You know, if these were the other way around, with the white on the hood and the blue on the side, there is one with the white on the hood and the blue on the side. I think I'll take that one. The other thing I might have gone with is this one here. Blue over blue. I think I do like that one better. Not sure if there's any interior customization. There is. Funny that it's not showing me what those interior customizations are. That's odd that it doesn't take you inside the vehicle. To be able to see what you're doing. I said I was going to try one thing with the frame add-ons. You can see right there with the LC38 you still have, takes away the spare wheel, but you still have the muzzle. And with the LC38 you can have the long flatbed or the long sideboard. Let's go shift back to this with the exhaust. Now again, it appears the wedge cap takes away the crane add-on, as well as the big muzzle, as well as the heat shielded. Now the other heat shield gives it back. The muzzle you can have it, and of course the stock you can. But these first three exhaust options take away not only the crane, but the flatbed as well. The only way you could run these first three exhaust options is to run the mid-mounted flatbed. Or the towing boom. Mid-mounted flatbed, or I suppose the mid-mounted fuel tank, or the towing boom, or perhaps a high saddle and a low saddle. You cannot run the front-mounted crane with any flatbed or sideboard bed options in concert with these first three exhaust options. See how it all comes back when I choose that one. So that's kind of a handicap in the exhaust options. It puts them on the rear of the cab instead of the side. As far as a test drive, I don't really expect these wheels to do any better on this truck than they would on any other truck. The stock Voron Grad or the stock Voron AE. But I suppose we could spend a few seconds running it up and down the test course. Diff lock is always on. You just have to engage the all-wheel drive. I think this configuration is probably most likely to be used. But who knows, maybe somebody would want the small fuel carrier and a high saddle option. Now, I like to see if it'll climb this rock, and I've had better. Come on. Oh, there she goes. Come on. Well, I don't think I've gotten anything over that one without winching. But the Mark 31 came closer. Very difficult to even winch it over that rock. Let's try this one, cutting it at an angle. That one, it went right over. I came into it, it's a smaller rock, and I came into it at an angle, and that's pretty much how all of them end when you try to hit the rock at a bad angle. When you try to go over the big side of the rock. I think the MTVR Mark 23, maybe, or maybe I never took that. There was, no, it was the Mark 31. Mark 31 went over this rock at that bad angle, and it bounced back and forth but did not tip over. Now, in all fairness, this does have the active suspension on it, which raises it up a little higher. We could try switching to, or the tuned custom, rather. The active suspension is actually locked out because of the tire size. Or perhaps I don't have the upgrade for it. Maybe that's the reason. Because I'm still seeing... Let me try something. I failed to put them on. You try the 44-inch tires and then see if the active suspension is still locked out. No, see, now the active suspension is wide open. You have to go to a smaller wheel size to use the active suspension. The plane raised. If I put that on, I would imagine I can go back to the 52s that I had, yes. Now, in all fairness, we could do the same trial again with a slightly lower suspension, but the same tire size. There's the Quasi tires. Aren't those cool? That thing would go over that rock. Oh, excuse me. That thing would go over that rock at the completely wrong angle and without tipping over, I believe. That rode over that one. Rode over that one. And completely missed this one. Well, the test was to see if it would tip over with the lower suspension on it. So far it's doing alright, but let's try this one. Try running just the left side wheels up over that rock. Well, it got high centered. Trade some ride height for stability and it gets high centered. There it goes, and there it tips. So it did still tip over. Even with the lower suspension. Now that's not a knock on the truck. I'm trying to make it tip over to test its ability. In a normal campaign or normal gameplay, you would do everything in your power to avoid those situations. You saw that it climbed the hill. You saw that it bounced over the edge of that rock on the right side as it was making a left turn. And it stayed on its wheels. It went right through the snow, no problem. I didn't notice any decrease in speed at all. Those are the things you look for in a normal campaign. What you're going to try to avoid in normal gameplay is putting it in the situation that I did. I did that on purpose to check the stability, the breaking point, where it'll stay up or it tips over. You saw when I went over the left side of that rock where it started out smaller and then got bigger, it went over that just fine. But the jump, about the 3-foot jump from the ground level to the top of the big rock, is enough to make it roll. So anyways, basically everything you'd expect from the Voron Grad, with a couple, 3 different frame options and an extra spare wheel you can, or a couple extra spare wheels you can throw on it if you set it up correctly. It's always going to have the stock spare wheel position, but you've got the one on the back of the cab and the one under the frame rails in the rear, and depending on how you set up the other add-ons, you could have spare wheels in all 3 positions. And we already talked extensively about the add-ons. So this is where I'm gonna leave it on this one. I do have one more review I want to do. This is a Lodestar Heavy Recovery, which takes advantage of the Quasi tires and a little bit wider stance, besides being able to put fatter, bigger tires on it. So that'll be interesting. But I'm out of time right now. This is 38 minutes, and we've done Ural Typhoon, we've done Mark 23, Mark 31, and Mark 27 in previous videos. Now here's the Voron Grad, and great truck for what it is. Lots of different frame add-ons. Oh, excuse me. Lots of different frame add-ons depending on how you set it up. We saw that some of the exhaust options will actually take away frame options. But it is what it is, and thanks for watching.